Hello and welcome to the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15. We've been on this journey now for 15 weeks. This is the 15th week and 3 more to go. So we're going to go up to chapter 18 and then we'll begin the Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the most exciting part of the Vedas. So we'll begin that after this. But for now, we have a lot in store here today with the Bhagavad Gita. This chapter is also titled The Yoga of Divine Love, or Bhakti. So Krishna begins this chapter talking about a banyan tree. I don't know if you're familiar with the banyan tree. It's unlike any other tree in the world. And he talks about a banyan tree that has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. So I want you to just try and imagine such a tree that is growing with its branches, or rather its root upwards and its branches going down. And if you haven't quite figured that, maybe I'll show you the picture. That might help. So you look at a reflection, and he talks about this tree which has its roots going upward and its branches down. So that means it's a reflection. When you have a reflection, things are inverted. And that's what we're going to actually learn about today, is how this world is actually inverted. It's an inverted reality. It's a reality in which everything that we see, or rather nothing that we see, is what it seems. It's a reality in which that which we desire becomes a mirage, and that which we long for, all of us, is invisible and unattainable for the most part. We call this place our home, but in many ways we're never at home. We call this body our body, but as such it's never ours. It's constantly functioning in its own way, and we have no control over it. We can push it, we can work it, we can exercise it, we can feed it, we can clothe it, but ultimately it's doing its own thing. When it gets sick, when its heart beats, when we breathe, none of that is in our control. So it's working on its own, and then when the time to go comes, even though we may not want to, we go, and there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, there are some methods. They've got doctors, they've got hospitals, they've got all kinds of ways to try to make sure that they can try to hold on to life, and they dream one day of a time when we will be able to live forever. But that day still hasn't come, not in tens of thousands of years of humanity, and I don't think it will come in billions of years, because there is a reason for all of this being so inverted or upside down. One who has understood the nature of this world, in fact, is wise. So let's begin to understand it. True wisdom begins there. We can keep on arguing the existence of God or a creator or not, but we can't argue certain things that are right in front of us. Let's begin there. Let's start looking at those things that are unavoidable and inescapable, and then see what we make of that. So this is what a banyan tree looks like. It's a beautiful photograph, and you can see how its roots actually come from the branches all the way down to the ground, and often they will go into the ground from there. Now if you saw a reflection of that, it would be even more interesting. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward. Nourished by the three modes of material nature, the twigs are the objects of the senses. It also has roots going down, and these are bound to the karmic actions of human society. So much of the beauty of the banyan tree is in its roots. And those roots go into the ground, but they also come from the branches to the ground. So it's actually got branches, it's got roots all around it. And in many ways, we too are caught in what may be considered a web of our own fruitive actions, actions that, or karmic actions that we do for our own satisfaction, the things we do for ourselves, either good karma or bad karma. All of that conditions us, all of that traps us, all of that binds us to this world, like the banyan tree with its roots going into the ground. We are held to this world, to this cycle of birth and death, to this body and mind, by the roots of our actions, our karma. And keep in mind that our karmic actions are not only things that we do that are bad, they're also the things we do that are good. The good karma yields good results, but it also binds you to the world. Bad karma yields undesirable results, shall we say. Those also bind you to the world. You need to be able to reap the fruits of those karmic actions. The idea that is put forward in the Bhagavad Gita is to become a karmic, the opposite of karmic, free from karma. Because when you become free from karma, you now become free from the entanglement of this world. So Krishna continues here saying, the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. So we don't really quite see or understand what's going on, why things are the way they are. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment. So he's saying here that you may or may not understand where your karma has got, where you're entangled with your karma. You may or may not understand why things are happening the way they're happening. Why do good things happen? Bad things happen to good people, and why do good things happen to bad people? We have all these questions in books that have been asked for a long time. People have tried to figure this out. He says you may not be able to understand that. The intricacies of this web are deep. The roots go far, and karma may fructify in this life or any other. It's not that it's only going to happen right away, that a person did something and so now they'll get the karmic reaction. Some people tell me like that. They say, oh, this person hurt my feelings. When are they going to get their karma? Why aren't they getting it? What's the problem? Maybe this karma thing doesn't exist. They get impatient. And I tell them that karma is like seeds. You plant them. Some seeds sprout quickly like grasses. And some seeds, like mango trees, might take 10 to 12 years to bear fruit. So it depends on, how intense that karma is and how deep it is and how far it needs to go. But when it comes, it will come at the perfect time for the person to learn what they needed to learn. Karma is not there to punish us. It's there as a mirror, showing us what it feels like to be on the other side of our actions. Our good karma shows us what it's like to be on the side of having good things happen to us because we did things to help others. Our bad karma shows us what it's like to be at the receiving end of people doing terrible things to us. But come around it does. And it is perhaps the only explanation I have found to understand why the world is as crazy as it is. But there might be some more reasons. We're going to look into that as well. So Krishna says but with determination, one must cut down this tree with the weapon of detachment. So detachment here refers to not leaving the world, but rather having and not being attached, detached. To be attached is to think this is mine. This house is mine, this car is mine, this partner of mine, husband, wife, whatever term you give is mine. This child is mine, this body is mine. This is attachment. Detachment is to know that nothing is mine, nothing at all, that everything was given to me and everything shall be taken from me in time, that everything belongs as such, you could say, to time. And Krishna says, time I am. So ultimately everything belongs to God. All right, let's go further. So doing, one must seek that place from which one, having once gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that supreme personality of Godhead from whom everything has begun, and in whom everything is abiding since time immemorial. So what is the idea of getting free of karma? The idea is actually to release the roots that are binding us to this world, to release ourselves from those roots, and then do what? Right? Because you want to be attached. It is natural for us to be attached. We are beings that crave attachment to things. We just naturally do this. We get attached to people. We get attached to being young. We get attached to being alive. We get attached to being healthy. So we get attached very easily, very naturally, because attachment is our nature. Just as love is our nature, to seek love is our nature. When we have it, we thrive. When we don't have it, we keep yearning for it. It's just how it is. We seek happiness, we seek peace, we seek contentment, we seek to live. Nobody wants to die. So these things are fundamental. Attachment is fundamental. When you let go the attachment to the world, what are you going to do with your attachment, with your tendency to be attached? If you become a monk, let's say you practice that kind of detachment, well, the tendency is that then you'll become attached to the things of your monastery. You'll become maybe wanting to be in charge of that, maybe being attached to the people who work there, maybe getting hurt or upset if somebody says something against them, and maybe trying to control them. In some way or the other, you're still attached. If nothing else, you're attached to this body, your mind, your thoughts, your opinions. Set free all of that. Recognize that everything your mind is thinking is manufactured, made up, unreal. Recognize that everything that you see is unreal. Now, why hold on to a mirage? If you have to hold on to something that doesn't seem to exist, try something better. Something that actually gives you satisfaction. And that something is God. When we put our attachment to God and say to God, you are mine. You are my only possession. That's what Meera said to Krishna. You are mine and I am yours. She says, I give myself to you completely. And in this way, the relationship is formed. So Krishna is saying here, so doing, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns. See, in this world, our attachment is to all these false and impermanent things. But he's saying, come to this other world, where having once gone, you will never return to this world. And what will you do there? There you will surrender to that supreme personality of Godhead, that supreme being, from whom everything has begun, and in whom everything is abiding since time immemorial. In other words, come home. He's saying, come back home. So this is another way of depicting that tree, that upside down banyan tree, the roots going upward. But as we lift off from this world, he's inviting us on the upper part of that picture, back to home, back to being with him. And we're going to talk more about that. What does it mean to be with God? But let's read a little bit further. One who is free from illusion, false prestige, and false association, who understands the eternal, who is done with material lust, who is freed from dualities of desire and happiness and distress, and who surrenders unto the Supreme Person, attains to that eternal kingdom. Let's go over this slowly. Free from illusion. That's the first step. What is the illusion? The illusion is that this is me. This body, this is me. This story of mine, this is me. This is the illusion. This world, the stuff I have, this is the illusion. My name, my fame, my how people see me, what people think of me, this is the illusion. All of this, from the subtle to the gross, all of it is illusion. You may say, no, 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 the problems of the world are real. Yes, they're real. They feel very real. The problems that we suffer feel very real. We get sick, it's very real. We die, it's very real. We bump our head against something or have an accident, it's very real. It hurts. But that's the beauty of this virtual reality game or environment that we're in. In the virtual environments that they create with these 3D virtual glasses or virtual headsets, it also seems very real, very three-dimensional. I've had a chance to look at those and explore that, and it's like, wow. So that is what Krishna is referring to. This world is like that. These senses are those virtual reality, earphones and headset with which you can see. But now it immerses you, and this computer inside immerses you in this illusory world. So the first step is to become free of the delusion or the illusion of fall, which is again all about false prestige. False prestige. This is a big piece. If someone challenges who I think I am, if someone tells me I'm worthless, I'm not good enough, something is wrong with me, I feel hurt. Why? What happened? My false prestige got damaged. My sense of self was broken. I am now feeling hurt and sad and depressed, angry. Those are all symptoms. Whenever we are trying to defend ourselves, so if in an argument you're trying to defend yourself, in a interaction with someone, you are trying to be right, then you are in a place where your ego is getting bruised, your false prestige is getting affected, and your ego is trying to stand up for itself. I had someone say the other day, I love myself, and that's why I get so defensive, because I need to make sure that no one hurts me. I'm a mama bear, and I want to make sure that people don't try to hurt me. And, she's right. As a human being, you need to protect yourself. But remember, there's a deeper understanding to that. And I completely get that we need to make sure that our ego is not damaged, just as we don't want to damage our car. I understand it needs to function, and it functions a certain way. But don't get too caught up in that. It's only your car. You're not your car any more than you're your ego. So the self that most people are thinking when they talk of self-love is the egoic self. It is that you're trying to protect. It is that you won't let anybody cross. You want to make sure that, hey, you don't talk to me like that. And that's fine, but that's your car, that's your vehicle. The real self, the soul, doesn't give a damn about that. You can think whatever you want to think about me. You can call me names. You can cuss me out. I don't care, because it's not who I am. This which you are seeing is not who I am. The real me, if you have not met that, come. Let us meet each other in the place of the heart. Let us meet each other in the place of the soul, where we go beyond mind, beyond thoughts, beyond words, and connect with each other. Then you will know that you and I are no different from each other. We are the same essence. We are part of God. And our relationship is one of love. Please mute. I'll answer questions later. Our relationship is one of love. And we will be in a place of love if we know how to get past our false prestige and our false ego. So one who is free from illusion, false prestige and false associations. Also people who are very much in the worldly concept of life may not be the best association for us to have. People who are very materialistic, people who are not interested in the things of spirit, may not be the best association for us. We need to be aware of that. Then he goes on to say, the one who understands the eternal, who is done with material lust, meaning material desire. It's not just, about sexual lust. He's talking about desire. One who's done with material desire, who is freed from the duality of happiness and distress, and who surrenders to the Supreme Person. So what does it mean to be free of material desire? It means that you accept what comes of its own accord. It's okay. You want to be ambitious? Be ambitious. You want to work hard and have a great lifestyle? Have a great lifestyle. But do it in a way where you recognize that nothing is mine. Do it in the understanding that everything belongs to God. Do it from a place of surrender and of service. If you're generating a lot of money, use that money for the service of the community, of humanity, not just yourself. Those are wrong values that our society is now teaching everybody to become a multimillionaire, and that greed is the way to being a successful human being. Success is measured by your possessions, by your house, by your car, and bank balance, and everything else. It is not. Success is this, what Krishna is talking about. Who is freed from the duality of happiness and distress. And this is a point he's been making since the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. The duality of happiness and distress. What is that duality? That duality is that when I get what I want, I'm happy. And when I don't get what I want, I'm unhappy. See? So it becomes, this is the duality. The duality is, if my desires are fulfilled, I'm happy. But that is like a child. When a child doesn't get the candy, the child cries. When the baby gets the candy, the baby is happy. So in the same way, we are very affected by our desires. So he says, become free from the duality of happiness and distress, because real happiness is a steady state that lies within us. It is the nature of who we are. It is not gained by something that you possess or have or acquire or become. No, it is always there. It is constant. Who surrenders unto the Supreme Person, such a person attains to that eternal kingdom. That abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire, or in today's time, electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. That abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. One who reaches it never returns to this material world. So the question is, well, then how is it illumined? Is it all dark out there? Right? Is there some other source of light? What is it? The spiritual world, as it is called, is self-illumined. It is, everything is luminous. Everything is giving out light. Every being, everything is of the nature of spirit. And all of it is luminous. Therefore, when you're there, you will perceive it as light. But within that light, there are beings. There is you. There are other beings. There are all kinds of things within that light. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. So in the drawing, in this painting that someone has done, they've the material world at the lower end. They've shown the material world with all its planets and all its universes at the lower end of this picture. Then there comes the light. And it is said that light is actually more than 3/4 of the entire spiritual creation, of the entire creation. So this material world, with all its planets and galaxies, millions and billions of planets and galaxies, is not even a quarter of the entire spiritual sky. That spiritual sky, which is self-illumined, which Krishna says, that is my abode, right? That abode which has neither sun nor moon nor fire to ignite, but which is self-illumined, that place is called the Brahma Jyoti. Jyoti means light, and Brahma Jyoti means the divine light. So that divine light is everywhere. There is no need of sun or moon or stars or anything else like that. But that is the spiritual world. And the spiritual world is the world in which there is no time, no beginning, no end, no birth, no death. The material world, which is considered like a cloud up in the sky of the spiritual world, the entire material world with all its planets, billions of planets and universes, and all the laws of this material world, are just that tiny part of the entire creation. That's where we are. And so here he's talking about our ascent out of this world into that light, and from that light, should we so desire, into the spiritual world. Going further, we could go and just merge with the light. That's an option. Many yogis, that's how they see their journey, that they want to go and merge with the Brahma Jyoti, the light. And then beyond that are many, many planets, spiritual planets, in which the incarnations of God reside. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. This is the ultimate planet. It is said to be shaped like a lotus flower. Now, clearly, this is an artist trying to depict the idea, but the idea is it's in the shape of a lotus flower, and within that are all kinds of wonderful activities. Those activities that are in the spiritual world are what Krishna came to show us here in the place called Vrindavan 5,000 years ago. He came to show us what it's like to be with him. He came to invite us to come back to him, to come back to the spiritual world, to stop wasting our time over here, and to realize that he is waiting for us, that he is longing to be with us. So, what will we do there? People wonder, are they going to go to some heaven where they're going to be playing harps? No. There you have everything. Everything that you have here in its natural form, not all the buildings and things we've created, but everything we have in its natural form exists in the spiritual world. Remember that story of that whole example of the upside down tree? Well, the upside down tree is the material world, and it is a reflection of the spiritual world. The spiritual world is the one that is straight up. Material world is the upside down reflection. So here everything is inverted. Everything is illusory. If you go to touch that tree in the reflection in the water, you don't get anything. Similarly, if you go for love in this world, you come up with something else. You go for happiness, you come up with something else. You go for peace, you go for wisdom, you go for any number of things. You come up short. So the real thing is in the spiritual world. And that's what he's inviting us to. So what happens out there? There, you see Krishna or God in a celebratory mood, enjoying life, having a wonderful time, not sitting on some throne. Though if you want that, you can have that by all means. But at the highest level, at the highest planet in the spiritual world, this is what you'll find. You'll find God playing. You'll find him and relating to people at the level that they want to relate with him. Some want to relate with him as the mother, and they can do that. They can love him as his mother. Some want to love him as their friend, and they can do that. All options are available. How would you like to interact with God? What kind of relationship would you like to have with God? If all things were possible, what would be your relationship? Besides, God is not just masculine, God is also feminine. So in the center here, you see Radha and Krishna in the center of this circle. And then you see all the women of Vrindavan, and they're dancing with Krishna. So you want to be his lover or her lover. All possibilities exist. There is no limitation. How would you like to love God? That is the only thing that you need to ask yourself. What kind of relationship would you like to have? But above it all are the divine couple, Radha and Krishna. Here you see them on a swing. This is what they came to show us. This is who we are. And to leave that legacy and that story behind, that Leela, so that we may be attracted, so that we may want to one day come back home. Na tad bhashyate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha Yad gatvana nivartante tad dham paramam mama. Dham is that spiritual world. Paramam, that supreme dham, that supreme abode, that supreme destination is where I am. There is no nabhashyate, that means there is no illumination from Surya, the sun, na shashanko, there is no moon, there is no pavaka or fire, right? There, everything is self-illumined. And he says, come there, come be with me. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Read this very carefully. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. We are all tiny parts of God. This is very important to understand. We are not this body. We are particles of God. If it is because God is beautiful, therefore we are beautiful. It is because God is wise, therefore we seek wisdom. It is because God, you see, the small part wants, like a particle of water wants to go and be with the ocean. We too have this longing. We too have this longing to find a place that is our home, a tribe that is our tribe, a person who we can love. We have this, and we don't just seek love, we seek eternal love. All of us do. We don't just seek to live, we seek to live forever. We don't just seek happiness that is momentary. We want, ideally, if we could have it, we want to be happy forever. We want eternality. Why? Why is this universal? Regardless of if you're an atheist, whether you're from one religion or another religion, it doesn't matter. This is common across everyone because that is the nature of the soul. And that is the nature of the place where we came from and where we are being called back to. See, now it all starts to make sense. That is where our longing comes from. Our longing tells us of our nature. Our longing tells us of our nature. When we feel we do not belong, that is because that is actually true. Story of the ugly duckling, where the duckling did not feel she belonged. And basically, she was a swan. So that's why when she was with the ducks, she was being raised by the ducks. She grew up with the ducks. She felt she didn't belong because she was actually a swan. And when she met the swans, she says, "Oh, they're like me. I want to go there. I want to be with them." And then she found they talk like her, act like her, behave like her. Ah, now you've come home, back to your tribe, back to your people. And so it is with God. So in the meantime, this is what we're up to. We're struggling, working hard, doing stuff. And we don't need to. There is nothing to struggle for. There is nothing that we need to strive for so much, because ultimately everything will be gone. Everything we acquired, everything we did, everything we achieved will be gone. So it is time to think. We are just like we get insurance policies because we know one day something could happen, to our car or to our health or to our life. We get policies for that. What's your insurance policy for death? Oh yeah, I got a life insurance. No. That's for the people who stay behind. What's your insurance policy for you when you die? What have you invested into that? Because after all, if you don't invest into a life insurance policy, well, there'll be nothing there, right? So what is your death insurance policy? What are you insuring for your own death? Not for your loved ones, not for that you can do the way you're doing, but for you. Where are you going to go? Have you any idea? Have you any clue? Have you thought about it? That's the question we're asking here. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Now, this is such an important point to understand. We all came into this life differently. We came with our own longing, our own yearning, our own aptitude, our own skills, each one of us, with some problems and some strengths. So you look at someone who's autistic, but then they might have some strengths. They might be actually very brilliant. Again, there are some of us who come with very wonderful, beautiful bodies, but maybe we're not that smart. So, there are others who come with this handicap, but there'll be someone's blind, but they're actually a great musician and they have wonderful hearing. So with every one of us comes with different conceptions of life, conceptions that are formed around our body, around our strengths, our weaknesses, the society we're born into. And we carry these conceptions of life from one body to another, Krishna says, as the air carries aromas. We carry them from one body to another. So think about it, how you are so different than the people you knew. You're seeking, that's why you're here, spirituality in a way that most people aren't. I was seeking, and around me nobody else was. I was reading, I was intensely searching, even at the age of 13, 14, 15. I would argue with everyone and wanted to know. Would not rest until I could find out. I had to find out. So, because I was carrying something from the past, which the rest of the people around me were not. None of my kids in school, nor my family, or anybody else. Yet I was carrying that. Others were carrying their own conceptions of life. Oh, I want to be rich. Oh, I want to be famous. Oh, I'm going to be a movie star one day. Something. They came with this. Some of them lived up to their dream. Others didn't. Varies from person to person. Most of the time, they struggled. So another way to look at that would be through this picture, which tries to convey the idea how there are different stages of life, how there are different species of life, and we go through all of that carrying our consciousness. Our consciousness is that part of us, the subtle body, not the soul, the subtle body, which gets impregnated with all these desires and longings and lessons and learnings, which we then carry from one life to the other, and our karma, of course. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, attains a certain type of ear, tongue, eye, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped around the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Remember, notice this phrase, that are grouped about the mind. So all our senses are grouped around the mind, because the mind is now going to interpret the world through the senses. It is then going to desire and long and act in ways to be able to fulfill those needs and desires. It is going to then set us onto this treadmill of karmic action. And we keep going and going and going. And unless we put the brakes on it, unless we start asking the questions, we're stuck in this loop. We're completely stuck here. We have no idea. We're just in a rut, like a hamster on a wheel, just going on and on and on. The deluded cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge, or jnana chakshusha, can see all of this. So this is the training that you're getting here, is to train your eyes with the eyes of knowledge, so you can begin to see these things and then live your life accordingly. The endeavoring yogi or transcendentalist situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those who are not self-realized cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to. So people will philosophically maybe understand these things, but it is very important to know that being philosophical is not enough. One has to walk the path, one has to practice these things, one has to live in this way, and then you go from knowledge to realized knowledge, from gyan to vigyan. Vigyan means realized knowledge. That stuff, that is the thing that you have lived. It is not just something you know, but it is something that you have lived. It is now where you're at. Your consciousness has evolved to that level. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this universe, comes from me. The brilliance of the moon and fire are the radiance of my effulgence. I enter into each planet, and with my energy they stay in orbit. I become the moon and thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. I am the fire of digestion in every living body, and I am the air of life, outgoing and incoming, by which I digest the 4 kinds of foodstuff. I am seated in everyone's heart. From me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. This is a very, very important verse. God is seated in everyone's heart, and from him comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Sarvasya cha aham. Sarvasya means everyone. Cha aham. I am. Hridi means the heart. Sanivishta is situated. Matah, from me, comes smritir, remembrance, jnanam, knowledge, and apohanam, forgetfulness. So it's very important to understand that God is seated in everyone's heart. God is not just seated in the heart of the believer and not, or not, or a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew. No, God is seated in everyone's heart. You could be an atheist, you could be a murderer, you could be a psychotic person, you could be completely schizophrenic and have lost your mind in some way or other. That doesn't matter. God is seated in everyone's heart. And one who is self-realized sees past the veil, the illusion of the body, of the mind, of the actions, and sees to the soul of that person. So it's very important to understand this, that God is seated in everyone's heart. And the next line says, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgiveness. That is to say, if you seek God, he will show you how to get to him. And if you seek just to, you want community and you want that, well, then there's plenty of institutions and, organized religions for that. But if you really want to seek God, then you have to go past these organizations, you have to go past these religions, you have to go past any systems, and you've got to find God within you. Because he's seated here within your heart. He is not in some institution. He is not in some religion. He is here within you. And if you cannot find him here, you will, and if you do not find him in the world, you will not find, then no matter where you go, you still will not find God. You will think you've got, because you've got this lovely hullabaloo of people singing and dancing and doing wonderful things. And hey, that's lovely. They want to praise God, and it's great. I'm not against anybody. I will join them happily. But if you really want to get to the heart of the matter, then you have got to dig a lot deeper. Krishna continues, by all the Vedas am I to be known. I am the compiler of Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. So many people feel that, oh no, Vedanta is something different. Krishna is just, a powerful being. Vedanta is everything, the universe, the light, the Brahman, that is everything. Krishna says, I am the Brahman. I am Om. I am the Vedas. By the Vedas, I am to be known. I am the compiler of the Vedas. The Vedas come from me. All knowledge comes from me. Ved means knowledge. So all knowledge comes from me. Where will you go that I am not? I am everywhere. Guru Nanak, Guru of the Sikhs, was one time sleeping in such a way that his feet were pointing towards Mecca. And a Muslim person, came up to say, Guruji, how are you sleeping like this? Your feet are pointing towards Mecca. So Guru Nanak said to him, please move my feet in any direction that God is not. To him, God was everywhere. And there is nowhere you can put your feet or be insulting to God by putting your feet somewhere. There's a very clear understanding that God is everywhere, in everyone. And when you begin to experience that, you've actually started to see through the veil of delusion. Now comes a very, very important point. Really pay attention here. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every entity is fallible. And in the spiritual world, every entity is infallible. This is such an important piece. I could go on for hours with this one. But what it tells you is this. In this world, every one of us is fallible or flawed or messed up. Every single one of us. There is not a single one. I am messed up. You are messed up. We're all messed up. We're all imperfect. We're all flawed. None of us is perfect. And no matter how much someone may have attained in their life, they will never be perfect. In this material world, every entity is fallible. All of us. And we will never become infallible. We will never become perfect, no matter how much we do to ourselves. In fact, the opposite will happen. You can make your body as beautiful as you like with all the makeup you like and exercising and everything else and the most wonderful clothes, but age will catch up with you and it will bring you to your knees. Health will catch up with you. You may be very healthy now, but health will catch up with you. Death will catch up with you. It is inevitable. And when we begin to recognize that we are all fallible and we embrace our flaws, truly embrace and stop judging ourselves for being fallible, because that is the nature of this world, then when we neither judge ourselves nor others, we will truly begin to find peace. Judge not, lest you be judged. It's a very simple line I learned from the Bible, and it was perfect and beautiful. I practiced it for over 30 years, and it has done wonders. Judge not, lest you be judged. Because we're all fallible. Krishna is giving you the reason for this. And only then can we begin to love one another. When we accept that, when we accept each other as we are, with our flaws, each other with their flaws, then we can begin to love each other. But if we try to change each other, if we try to fix each other, if we want to try to somehow make the other person the way we think they should be, well, there's going to be all kinds of strife, there's going to be all kinds of quarrel, there's going to be all kinds of this. Well, no, you do that, I do, and they'll point the finger at you and you'll point the finger at them, and it will go out and explode, and you will have conflict. But if you accept each person, and if you're compassionate for their struggle, and if you simply are curious about what they're thinking and what they're going on, what's happening with them, if you step out of your mind into theirs, of your world into theirs, you will find you can generate love endlessly. The spiritual world, everyone is infallible. We seek to become that way. All this whole self-help movement and even spirituality, we seek to become perfect. It will not happen in this world. What we are seeking is already here. It is in your soul. It was always here. You were always perfect. You were always incredible. You were always beautiful. You were always young, and you will stay young even when you are 95 and 99 years old. You are eternally that which you seek. The happiness, everything you've been seeking was in here all along. It was in your soul. It was hidden. Look there and you shall find it. Look there and your journey will be successful. Besides these two kinds of beings, there is the greatest being, Uttama Purusha, the Supreme Soul, God, Paramatma, the unlimited controller, Ishvara, who has entered these worlds and is maintaining them. These Sanskrit words I'm giving you alongside if you wish to learn. They are wonderful words. The greatest being, Uttama Purusha, the Supreme Soul, the Paramatma, the unlimited controller, Ishvara, who has entered these worlds and is maintaining them. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, I am celebrated in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person, Purusha Uttama. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Being, Purushottama, without any doubt is to be understood to be the knower of everything. Such a person immerses himself in worshipping and serving me with complete devotion, or Bhakti Yoga. So read that again. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Being, Purushottama, without any doubt, is to be understood to be the knower of everything. Such a person immerses himself in worshipping and serving me with complete devotion. With that, we end the... one more. This is the most confidential part of the Vedas, or Shastras, and is now disclosed by me to you. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So what are your thoughts? What is your observation? What did you learn from this? And what can you take away from this is what I'd love to know. In a moment, and I will switch over. Yes. Okay. Give me a moment, please. I'll be with you just one moment. I need to switch this over. Just 1 second. 1 second. Hold on, please. Mm, there we go. All right. And okay, Mariah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The idea, Mariah, the idea is not to give up the world. I think what you're trying to say is you're still attached to the world and you're not ready to give it up. And it isn't really required that you give up the world. It is required that you see it in its correct perspective, that you see through the veil of illusion. That is all. That is what it is. If you gave up the world, I did that at the age of 20. We gave up everything and moved into the monastery and became a monk. Didn't help me much. And I saw all the politics that went on, and I saw all the insider stuff that nobody else gets to see, and I realized, oh my God, people are as attached to material things as anybody outside in the world is. It might come in different forms. You're attached, but you're still attached. You're attached to your little thing, just like even a prisoner in a jail is attached to their cell. They're attached to their clothing that they have. That's all they got. You put a person out who's homeless and on the street, if they've got last $10, they're attached to their $10. If that's all they got, then they're attached to that. The point is you cannot be free of the body or the mind or anything. So if you really want detachment, then recognize that detachment is not by giving up stuff. It is by giving up the false identity or identification with it and the idea that this is either me or this is mine. That's the core. And as far as the beauty and the glory of God, which you're so admiring here, you are right about that. But what if you could have this in a way that is eternal, that doesn't die, that is not subject to any of the ups and downs of this world that we have? What if it was possible? The idea is just to open up to that idea and say, okay, well, what if that? So let's build the idea, okay? First and foremost, there is the idea, is there a God or is there not? Okay, and people will argue this endlessly. The point of the matter is you cannot have anything without somebody making it. It's just a simple observation that we have: a car, a house, or whatever it might be. This stuff that we live in is so complex that no human being can create even a bit of it. Tell them to start from nothing and create my fingernail. Can't do it. Create my hair from nothing, right? Just start from the atoms and protons and make it. Can't do it, right? A blade of grass, make it. Cannot do it. And yet you say this happened by accident. With all our intelligence, with thousands, maybe millions of scientists, we cannot do these simple basic things. And now we have an entire ecosystem around us, and we say that just happened by accident. So if we can get past that idea, which is the scientific mythology, and we come down, okay, there was a creator. Now that creator, where does that creator live? Okay, he's saying he's in every atom. So one idea is, of course, he's sitting in the clouds and he's sitting there on a throne and okay, right. But what is more real and this is what the ancients in India figured out, is that he's in every atom of the creation. So how can you detach, how can you give up the world when God is everywhere in the world? Wherever you look is God. So you cannot only begin to see that, only begin to experience that. Even in the person who is, so I mean, the simple level is, of course, with nature, and then with animals. And then if you go further, with people is the most complex, because with people, there are so many things our mind gets caught up with. Start with yourself for that. First, begin with yourself. Begin to feel the divinity within yourself. And you will feel it as you, whenever you quiet your mind, even if it's for a moment, you will feel the divinity oozing out of you. That joy you feel inside you, that peace you feel inside you, that's coming from your soul. That's divinity oozing out of you. Then, as you become familiar with this, with what is within you, you will now start to notice it in others. And as you notice in them, now your world will be surrounded by God, right? And then you'll realize, oh, and is there more? And the Gita says, yes, there is more. And that's what all the religions have been pointing to, except this is the only place where you'll get that level of detail of what is God doing? What does God have for breakfast? What does he like to do? What is there a she God too? Oh, can I have a relationship with her? And what would that be like? Right? So all of that is what the Bhagavad Gita is starting to tell you about. And then the next text we're going to go into, the Srimad Bhagavatam, will tell you even more. But it's a process, it's a journey. Oops. You're welcome. I seem to have frozen for a moment, but all right. Any other questions? See, you're in such a beautiful place there. You are surrounded by the presence of God. All of that, from the animals to the trees, to the grasses, and the flowers, all of it. All right. Swati, any questions? All right, she must be busy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and everything is inverted. It's the same thing. I mean, the spiritual world and the material world, they're not that different. It's just that everything's upside down over here. And as a result of which things don't quite work the way we want them to. All right, thank you for joining me. I so appreciate you guys being here. It means the world. You're welcome. I'll see you next week. Bye.